Hi everyone, a warm welcome to everyone watching this podcast today. I've got a special guest here, Leonard Openshaw. Leonard.
Morning. Morning everybody.
It's so good to have you on our Mentoring Men podcast. And just invited Leonard here today just to share some of his story. Those of you who don't know, Leonard, how long has it been that you and I have been working together now for almost 3 years now, eh?
Yeah, at least Edwan. I think we've been journeying a bit longer maybe.
Yeah.
Straight after COVID, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, straight after COVID.
And it has been one of the most incredible journeys that I've witnessed in my entire life.
Yeah, me too. I'm too scared to take the seatbelt off.
I know. And I just hope it gets better. But, you know, this morning's all about just, you know, amplifying what God's done in your life, and it's huge. And I think the only way we can unpack that, and I mean, this is 3 years we want to squeeze into a couple of minutes here.
Absolutely.
And but Leonard, tell us a little bit about what kicked off the process for you. Where I remember you coming in, you had a job, doing well, and somewhere you encountered God in an incredible way, and you had a very strong conviction to make some changes in your life.
Yeah, some people at the time, I believe, thought I was crazy. I think my journey with God, I've always been a believer. I've always been a Christian. I've always walked with God, but I think in about 2016, I really started understanding relationship with God. And we'll get to it later, but during my journey now, I realized I kind of got it a little bit wrong. It's actually even deeper than what it should have been. And as you said, I had a good job. I was very successful. I was serving the church. But life got to a point for me is when you're trying to live out your godly principles and you're working in an environment where there are very gray areas, such as things like bribery, corruption, as we read in the news every day. And that becomes a daily life for you when you leave home and you go to work. So it becomes a very difficult situation when you're praying to God in the morning to bless your day and bless your family, and you go out there every day and you're working in this world. I think in Afrikaans, dis die bose wêreld, you got a good word for that, eh? Some words are only good in Afrikaans.
It's true.
It became very conflicting for me, and I didn't want to do it anymore because it starts affecting you as an individual, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It overflows in your personal life at home. It starts overflowing your spiritual life because you ask yourself the question, I'm praying to God, but what am I actually doing? Because God's not stupid. He knows exactly what you're doing.
Of course.
And that then led me to, it wasn't sudden. It was a decision. As you know, we journeyed and prayed through this. I got up one day and I decided I'm going to change my life. I resigned from my job without having a job, but I wasn't prepared to do that anymore. So that was one of the craziest things I've probably done in my life, but I did it with faith. And I just said, God will guide me and we'll work out the future. Because sometimes you can't plan the future, and I learned that also in the last 18 months. Planning the future becomes rather tricky.
It does, and I think that's where I take my hat off to you. Is the decision you made was completely value-based. It wasn't just I woke up one morning and I changed my mind. It was a journey where you really trusted God in faith to say, okay, God, I want to align my values and my relationship that I've got with the life that I live. But what the life that I'm living right now is not reflecting that. So let's make a change. And then at 56, you made a huge change.
Absolutely, and don't be mistaken, that comes with consequences.
Of course.
There's consequences for that. You know the consequences are coming, and it's a matter of are you ready to endure what's about to come.
Okay.
Because it's just not, there's financial consequences, there's emotional consequences, there's your reputation consequences, because many people, even in the work world where you are, do not understand your decision.
Of course.
So it looks a bit shady.
Yeah, and so you made this decision, you humbled yourself. I always say to you that was one of the biggest things for me, is that you were obedient to what God told you to do. You humbled yourself, And at 56, you almost ready to like go sort of slowly into retirement, building towards it, and you made this sudden huge change. What was that change, and what did you learn in that process of being obedient, and what does it mean to sacrifice certain things so that you can rather be obedient? Because I know the word says in Samuel that obedience is better than sacrifice.
Absolutely. I think firstly, just to understand, feelings follow obedience. So when you become obedient, you're freeing yourself from the chains that are binding you to material things within the world we live in. And it starts bringing about joy in your life. You start seeing life a little differently because you don't have the daily stresses that you used to have. You don't have all those pressures because you're following the word of God. And what I learned about sacrifice is not easy, and you have to endure, because God says he wants you to endure the pain and suffering, and then he's going to bless you. And I've always wanted to work internationally. My wife and I, it's been our dream. And I then decided that I'm going to follow my dream. And which was very interesting is it was a lengthy process. I was approximately 6 to 8 months without a job. And you can imagine the endurance that you have to sit at home and everything that comes with that. But I kept my mind fulfilled with positive energy, positive stuff, serving where I could still serve. And God then suddenly opened all these doors, which was phenomenal for me to be able to get a job, which I duly did. And it was with him, and it was his blessing, because I always said his will needs to be done for me to be happy. Because yes, you don't go and sacrifice what you've sacrificed and then you go mess it up again the next time round, for lack of a better word. So I then asked him, there's a lot you need to put in place for me to be able to go and work internationally. And God then actually put everything in place. And we believe this was from him 100%. And funnily enough, I went to work there for a year, and bam, I had a cancer diagnosis, which then I had the dream job. I think a job I want to say people are willing to die for, really. I really had the dream job, and I had to resign from that job because of my diagnosis and the treatment plan specifically pertaining to me.
So Leonard, you got that news in April, okay? And I remember I can't even count how many coffees we had. We had just at least like the coffees at Leonard's house is at least at a minimum of 2.
Yeah, so we're shareholders in Starbucks.
Yeah, so you don't leave there without having 2 coffees. So Leonard, you got this news. I remember praying with you. I remember there was a lot to process. But in those days, because I also want to say this, Leonard is a very practical and pragmatic person. You want to know the process, you want to know how the plan looks ahead. And for somebody to live in a state or in a moment where you get big news but there's no clarity on a plan forward is highly frustrating, to get kindly.
Absolutely.
But I think what stood out for me is that your obedience and your humility and your surrender towards God's will for your life continue to remain intact.
Absolutely.
Because you always remembered the change you made. So when you got this news, regardless of frustration, what went through your mind? Your wife also was with you, and what did you experience? Because that's huge.
I think the first emotion you get when you get it is devastation, emotionally and mentally, and funny enough, never spiritually. There was never a moment where I was angry or cross with God or wanted to walk away from God. I'll mention something about that shortly, where when you go for treatment, you see a lot of people who become disheartened in their spiritual journey. It was more just on a personal level of devastation, because God blessed this new journey. And I always knew that the cancer diagnosis was not from God. It's from the fallen world that we live in and everything that just comes with it. However, it was once again life-changing, because you've geared your whole life for something different, and exactly a year later, you just get completely blown away. And what helped me process was understanding and looking at the little miracles around. So for example, it was an accidental finding. I went to the doctor because I had back pain. Then to find out I actually had stage 4 cancer. Now stage 4 cancer generally it's when it moves from one organ to another. So you have cancer then in more than one organ in your body. And in my specific case, it's colon cancer plus liver cancer. And it's just a lot of information to take in. So you're almost, I want to use the word dumbfounded.
Of course.
You're trying to comprehend what's going on. And now, unfortunately, you're dealing with medical professionals who are very academic, who speak a language, and you know this, that I don't understand. My wife understood it very well, so I definitely made sure she was present in most of the conversations, because I would always walk away from them just being devastated.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm hearing what I don't want to hear, or I have no idea. So yeah, it was just completely life-changing. And it's how to manage your life going forward, how not to give up, how you're going to take on the struggle now, because it becomes a struggle. The journey of treatment becomes a struggle.
Okay.
And I'll end off that question by saying in my first 196 days of treatment, I had only 28 good days. 28 good days means you're ready to get out the house and go and have a good time and maybe visit a wine farm. But furthermore, there was only 28 out of 196 days.
Yeah, I think I remember, Leonard, so many times that you've gone through that, and I think one of the things that stood out for me is from hearing the news, we always prayed together, and we always trusted God for healing for you, but we also remained realistic, right?
Absolutely.
And we said, you know what, regardless, you're going to go through the process, and my commitment towards you is I'll be there for you. I'll come and have coffee, make sure you're not alone.
Plenty.
And we can talk through some of that stuff. But I think something happened in you that so changed that you remained full of faith, and you remained so positive regardless of diagnosis, process, anything. I mean, the other day I picked you up at the oncology center, and I mean, you are joking with the nurses and everybody, and they know you so well by now. I mean, after a couple of years of that.
But, I'm a shareholder.
But yeah, shareholder. But also, you know, you've been on one of the highest, most rigorous treatments for the longest amount of time, and I remember at one stage that you were losing so much weight that I was beginning to get worried here. But you then went, one day you weren't feeling well, and you went to hospital. Now this is where the story gets really powerful for me.
Yeah.
Why did you go to hospital, and what did you experience there? I really want you to unpack that for us a little bit, because I think that's really where something really changed.
Absolutely. Prior to going to hospital, just going through all the treatments, going through all the tough days and the good days, I think, as you know, the key recipe was one day at a time. And the hardest part was living scan to scan, so I had to readjust my life, because there were a lot of disappointments along the line too, as you know. Because obviously God's plan is not my plan, and I was trying to push my own plan, and God just kept saying, not going to happen, not going to happen. And then when I had hope, I had disappointment. So at that point, which was about last year, December-ish, I made the decision to stop pushing my own agenda and just succumb to the process completely. Then in January and February, I started feeling ill. As you said, I started losing a lot of weight. I looked at a photo the other day of what I looked like then. I don't recognize that human being.
How much did you weigh then?
Then I weighed 63 kilograms.
Now you are?
81. Back in the game, eh? Back in the game. Then what happened was, because of the type of chemotherapy that I've been on, and for so long, chemo upon chemo upon chemo affects your body in many ways. And it eventually destroyed my digestive system from top to bottom. Anything that was good inside got burnt and got destroyed. So what was happening, no matter what I ate or drank, it was not being absorbed by the body. It's like a lead pipe in your system, and nothing is being absorbed, so there's no nutrients going in. So I was admitted into hospital. Now, remembering, in your body you have bacteria.
Of course.
Anyway, but now the bacteria is the only thing that's living there. So I then developed septicemia. when I was in hospital, and they could not understand what the bacteria was to kill it, to obviously assist me getting to where we need to be. And at that moment in time, they also could not figure out what caused it. Just to take one step back, the average human being has 3 strands of DNA that fight cancer automatically. So if you go for your blood tests, you can do a cancer check and you got markers. At home, we now fondly refer to them as our fighter pilots.
Yes.
So when they did my test of fighter pilots, I didn't have any fighter pilots in my DNA. So I already had that setback.
So you literally don't have any white blood cells left to fight?
No, it's the DNA to fight it.
The DNA?
Yeah, in the process, the chemo devastates your white blood cells. So you even had a further setback and you're prone to infections. I've been to church now 2 weeks ago for the first time in 18 months. Physically been able to come to church from a health perspective and not to get ill. So in hospital, then they also realized that in my DNA, there's some enzymes that are missing that was counteracting the chemotherapy I was taking, which then destroyed my internal organs. And I was admitted on the Monday, and now it was Thursday. And obviously just drip after drip after drip to just keep me going. I actually lay on Thursday afternoon, I was just in the bed and I closed my eyes and I just said to God, I accept if it's my time. This is my time. I just like to say goodbye to my family. But when I closed my eyes, you can call it a vision, it was the picture in my head. I was sitting halfway up a mountain looking out at the valley and the mountains, and just the way God describes it, that He's the creator of the valleys and the mountains and the beauty and the birds, and it was just so beautiful. But funny enough, I was depicted as a little boy. Although I never saw my face, I always saw the back of myself. And when I was just talking to God like I always do, an elderly man came and sat next to me, on his knees as well. We were sort of on our knees. He never spoke. I never saw his face either. I just saw him. And it was almost, hey dude, what are you doing here? This is my chat with God. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, and in that moment, I want to say I challenged God. I said to him, God, if I come back from this, you're going to have to prove it's you and not the doctors and not just some fluke, because how do I know it's from you otherwise? And there was the Thursday afternoon. On the Saturday morning, the doctor walked in looking at all my stats and my blood stats and actually said, wow, you can go home. You're actually healthy now. Obviously, I needed to gain weight again and all those things in process, but that was, I want to say, a life-changing moment, because God humbled me more because I challenged him and he actually rose to the occasion. And I understood that.
And you said something very important in that moment. You said, God, if I fall.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
I just said to him, it's like walking on a mountain with you. And I can't really see where I'm going, because this journey is just, it's endless. It's just, you don't know where you're walking. And I said, if I fall, you're coming with. I'm going to hold your hand and you're going with me. And that's going to be what it's going to be.
And that's where you made your peace.
Complete surrender, and that's peace, yeah.
And then Saturday, the doctor walks in and everything is 100% and it's unexplainable to them.
Correct.
Okay, so that's miracle number 1.
I think number 3 along the line already, but yes.
Already. But then you still remain faithful to your treatment and to everything. And having that incredible encounter after that, what changed for you in terms of your perspective, the road that you have to walk that most people will consider being suffering, not knowing what's ahead, and that maybe death is imminent for you when you don't have a different outcome at the moment. You still have, obviously the goalpost extended from
Absolutely.
2 years to 5 years to, life, but now it's...
At the time, I think I can answer that in 2 words, then I'll explain myself.
Go for it.
The 2 words I'd say, love endures.
Here we go.
So what happened afterwards, when I went to the oncologist out of hospital, he said to me, well, what do I want to do? And that was kind of a bizarre question for me, because how do I know what I must do? And he just said he wouldn't recommend stopping chemo. And the detailed explanation was that chemotherapy will be part of my life for the rest of my life on some level, not at the level it's been now, because you cannot continue, it will destroy your body eventually. And I then made the decision to say, now I'll continue. And even one of the sisters there helped just ask me in Afrikaans, is jy braaf? Am I brave? And I said to her, no, it's my love story. And she was a little perplexed by that answer. And it was my love for life, my love for my family that said, you know, the doctor then gave me maximum 2 years to still live at the time. And I said, if I've got 2 years, if I do the treatment, if it extends it by another year, maybe half a year, whatever, it's just extra time to share my love with the people around me and just love my life. And I then embarked on a new journey of healthy body, healthy mind, healthy spirit. Picked up all the weight, as you said. I'm getting too fat now, I might have to go on a diet.
He's a great cook, by the way.
Yeah, cooking for one is a bit tough, but you have to do it when you've got to do it. So just my passion, the love for my family and for my life is that I was willing to endure the bad because the good was still good. And you can't walk away from the good.
No, you can't, eh?
And yeah.
And Leonard, then you still went through the treatment, and then this year, a lot of things changed. Tell us about how this year started and till where you got remarkable news.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey ever since then, because that was February. So I started continuing taking my treatments, but along the line, I want to use the word with God, I made the decision that I'm not going to allow the control of the illness to control what I'm going to be doing. And I came to the realization, in a way, I have the power to push back and still lead the life the way I want to lead my life. So then I made the decision to start leading the life the way I want to, which included traveling overseas, visiting my family in Pretoria and Namibia. And with the oncologists, we devised a plan to say, okay, how can we make it as good as we can, and I still travel, and I still get my chemo while I'm gone, and while I'm traveling, which is my passion, that floats my boat. So, you know, if you've got a little time left, you might as well go and enjoy doing something you want to do, rather than sit at home and wallow in your pity.
Exactly.
Obviously, it's easier said than done, but it does take faith, a lot of faith. It takes financial constraint, it takes emotional constraint. So I traveled, I took the chemo tablets. Even while traveling, I still get sick. You get prone to getting flu and things like that. My chemo treatment every second week, I could sit here talking to you, my mouth will start bleeding. My nose will just start bleeding. You get mouth sores, then you can't eat properly. And those are the things you navigate, but you can still enjoy your life while that's busy happening. Let that become the sideshow and focus on what you're actually busy with.
Yes,
And
it's an incredible mindset.
And on the journey is when things just started to change. Well, they didn't start changing. I came back from one of my travels and it was time for a scan. And in my position, if nothing changes on a scan, that's actually good news. So if something hasn't grown or got worse or gone to the other glands in your body, well, that's already good news all by itself. So that was 6 months since my 2-year diagnosis, which in essence, I've been given another 6 months to live, which is great. So I want to use the word borrowed time, but it's not borrowed, you know, God kind of gave it to me gracefully. And it didn't, about 2 weeks from there, the oncologist came back and said, no, but they want me to go for a different type of a scan. They're not convinced of what they see. So it's called a PET scan. So I went for that scan. And what they found was the cancer in my colon had died. Then the cancer also in my liver, the nodules had also shrunk quite a bit. So the calcification for them, given my type of cancer, my DNA, that should not happen. By now it should have been growing and I should have been rapidly on my way out. We made a joke earlier that I had my eyes fixed so I could see properly. So that's just because I could walk to the right light. You don't want to walk to the wrong one, right? You want to know where you're going. So when you're walking towards the light, you have to, I just want to say, you've got to just be humble and fight the good fight. So with the oncologist, he just says, this just should not be. This just cannot be. Surgery was never on the table, especially after February, with my colon that had so much trouble, and the walls had thickened. I was just told this is never going to happen. Now, they will not operate on the liver, for example, if the primary site is the colon. Generally speaking, it's not practice. They do it, but it's not actual practice. Then I went to go and see the colon surgeon, and he gave me the good news that surgery is on the table. They're talking about liver surgeries on the table now as well. And as you know, a week ago, when I went for another session of chemotherapy, I was just given the good news that I'm done. That also caught me by surprise. So I'm finished with chemotherapy. Even after surgery, chemotherapy is not necessary anymore. It's just going for your regular scans to make sure that nothing is growing, nothing's changed after they removed everything.
That's amazing, Leonard.
They will not remove the dead cancer because it's dead, so they won't mess with that. But they will just repair the colon and remove it from the liver.
I remember I took you for one scan, and I remember we were praying.
Yes, in the parking lot. As always, we pray right in the car, okay?
Yeah, we do a lot of car praying, and we prayed, and I'm not one for ridiculous, irrational faith, but I do believe the word says when we pray for the sick, we have to believe that God can do it.
Absolutely.
And your process is such a beautiful process of how God can intervene in a situation where there's devastating news, but He can do it in a number of ways. There's a sovereign healing that can take place, or He chooses to partner with people that are medical specialists. And in that process, they are dumbfounded by the fact that they find that your colon cancer, the cancer that's in your colon has now died. The nodules on your liver has died.
Shrunk.
And shrunk. Well, speaking that in faith. But the thing is, what's always stood out is you remain faithful to the process. But we always invited God into that process. Because it's a dark place to be at. But then you invite the light. And when you invite the light, it just gives you a total different perspective. And I remember we sitting in that parking lot and we said, God, we accept this, but we also want to choose your word in faith above what the news is. And we're not trying to be irrational, but we want to extend our faith. I remember praying a prayer with you together, and this is not my faith or whatever, it's just standing on God's word. We say, God, we want to speak death to that cancer.
Absolutely.
We want to speak death to anything, and we ask that you will use whatever it needs to take to bring healing to Leonard's body. And when you came back to me on the phone, and you didn't want to tell me on the phone, but you had to, but then we had coffee.
Yeah.
And then you told me the news, and literally your main area died there,
Yeah.
and now it's just taking care of the other side.
Correct, yeah.
Where they found, and that's also now treatable, and the operations are back on the table, as you said. And God did a phenomenal miracle where, in actual fact, you should have been on your way out. God came and did an absolute miracle in your life, Leonard. And just by being faithful, at peace, and allowing God to do His thing, being surrendered. And it's, I always go back to this, it's not by works, but it's by grace that we've been saved. And this process has totally been graced by God. It's not been, you just played your part, regardless of the outcome. And I always say to you, Leonard, remember, to live as Christ and to die as Christ.
Absolutely, and I think you have to do your part. No matter what it is, you still have a part to play.
Yeah.
And you know, I hung on to Psalm 91
the
whole of last year.
That,
and when I had so many disappointments, I just said to God, I can't understand that you made the promises. Those aren't my promises. I didn't write the Bible. Those are His promises in Psalm 91 to take care of us. And I'm doing all of that. And He's not delivering on any of His promises. But I didn't give up. I just said, you know, okay, God, well, challenge on. I'll just keep going then.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, and it's just so much proof of my timing is not God's timing, because what happened is I've actually been blessed greater and bigger than I would have been last year December when I was disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing to feel that He's come through for me on Psalm 91, just in every aspect. It's like mind-blowing.
And I remember you had so many plans and timings, and then it didn't happen on your time when you were disappointed.
Yes, absolutely.
And then eventually God did it in His time. But Leonard, I want to end off with this final question for you. through this journey, you've learned a lot of things, and there's men that are facing their own battles, not necessarily cancer. It's maybe something different, physical, or it's emotional, it's spiritual. Through your journey and your process with Jesus, what would you leave with them that will encourage them to continuously walk in the light and have faith in Him and trust in Him that He knows what He's doing?
I think I'd start by saying good luck and run. I'm only kidding. I'm only joking.
Sounds like Leonard.
Yeah. So no, I think if there's advice I can give, and I can speak from personal experience, so it's not just someone who's talking to the fairies. This is really my own journey. I think you need to accept your death. Meaning, me, it was proper physical death in my case, and I think once acceptance of that, a lot of things start to change. Then your spiritual eyes and ears start to open. So if it's financial, accept the death of your finances. If it's emotional, relational, just accept that death first. Because only once you've fully accepted that, you can really start only taking the next steps. And so my advice is you firstly just really need to accept that death, and then start trusting God and trusting the faith process. And it's been proven to me, and I can only share that with you, God's timing is not your timing. But look at all the little miracles that happen along the way, because you and I have shared on my journey, there's a lot of little miracles that have happened, so many. And when you're not open to that, your spiritual eyes and ears don't open properly.
Because we're only looking for the big thing.
Because you're only looking for the solution to your problem, because it's real and it's now and it's immediate. And which is understandable. I mean, we live in the real world. So spiritually, keep your faith, keep walking, open your eyes, look at, God says to us when we pray, say thank you. Start by saying thank you. And it's not only to thank Him, it's also a reminder of what's actually good in your life. And when you remind yourself still about the goodness, it's just easier to take those steps. But remember, taking steps to change your life will come with consequences. And you have to be prepared to hand it over to God, accept your consequences, whatever it is, as I've had to. And they come, and they're hard. And it's a nightmare to walk through, but you do get to the other end. And I would just like to inspire people out there to just keep the faith, because I sit here today being blessed by a miracle from God.
I think it's hard not to become emotional in this moment, but all glory must go to God for your life, Leonard, and you've been such an inspiration. I even said it on stage. There's times that I've walked out of your house where I feel more encouraged, and here you sit with a life-threatening disease, and my problems compared to what you have to face was actually really minute, but it's still all of us facing different battles. And I want to thank you for sharing your story today.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank you for coming in, and we continue to trust God that's walking with you.
Absolutely.
And if He's brought this far, we are continuously trusting for that complete healing that
Absolutely.
He says in His Word He does. And because God doesn't do a half work. And as I said, we'll take it for what it is right now.
Absolutely.
Whatever happens up ahead, we deal with. But I think what's important here in a relationship, we've walked it together. And I really am so grateful and privileged to walk and witness what God's doing in your life. And guys, I really trust that you've been encouraged by Leonard's testimony and just what God's done in his life, and that you will keep on walking and trusting Him, and that in His right time that He will come through for you, and that He will do things in your life that will amaze you. Until I'm reminded that says, until you die to yourself, those who will lose their life will find it, and those who keep their lives will lose it. And you were in absolute surrender, and you died to yourself.
Absolutely.
And you literally found life.
That's true. Absolutely.
And so I want to thank you for that. And,
thank you.
And guys, I really trust that this encouraged you, and we will see you again.